Did All For One find a way to rewind himself and heal his body via quirk erasing bullets and Ares DNA? Man, just when you thought Endeavor may have defeated the Villain King, no, it's just one of his schemes, his plots, his plan from the beginning. Ugh. Heroes can't catch a break. What's up, it's Truth Hero, and welcome back to another My Hero Academia chapter review. So Boku no Hero Academia chapter 357 in the manga. We'll discuss everything from Endeavor's super moves and battle prowess against the Villain King, the possibility that All For One has now found a way to rewind and heal his body, and make seemingly invincible clones of himself using Ares quirk and DNA, and of course, at the end of the chapter, what the heck is chasing Deku? Let's dive in. The chapter opens with All For One protecting himself against Endeavor's tremendous firepower using a force field quirk, and he thinks back to his fight with All Might. There's nothing more dangerous than a wounded hero. All For One, you about to be wounded. Although All For One is correct for the most part, there is nothing more dangerous than a wounded hero, especially one like Endeavor who has his pride wounded, and as we found out in the last chapter, has some serious family trauma. To keep the pressure on from his last attack, Endeavor rushes the Villain King here, and All For One's a bit shocked and startled at how fast he is. His quirks really aren't holding him back anymore, so what gives? How is Enji Todoroki this quick? Well, one word. Hawks. I love this callback to the high-end Nomu battle here. Hawks once again uses his last remaining feathers while hitching a ride on Tokoyami to propel Endeavor forward to victory. Endeavor then hits All For One with Vanishing Jet Burn, smacking him down like a meteor and causing quite the calamity on the ground. I love how the heroes down below are all surprised by this. Like, what's going on? He was supposed to fight him high in the sky. Why is he down here now? Guys, 1, you're pro heroes. You signed up for this. But 2, it's All For One. He's arguably the greatest villain in Japan, perhaps the world, and the most evil force in the entire last century in this universe. All bets are off. There's no plan that's safe. You either improvise or you die. Get with it, heroes. Kamui Wood starts to yell and grab the other heroes so that they can escape from All For One. Correction, so that they can escape from Endeavor's blast radius and his sheer firepower. I like how at this particular moment, Enji Todoroki is a bigger threat to the heroes than All For One is. I also like how Endeavor explains why he couldn't use a certain super move over the other one. He says Prominence Burn is too valuable of a resource to use here because it wouldn't shatter All For One's force field like his previous attack. My question is, if Prominence Burn is too valuable of a resource, then what the heck is Vanishing Jet Burn? Because that's an amazing super move that looks like a comet or a meteor and cracks any shield that All For One can come up with. As these ground heroes evacuate, Endeavor manages to burn through All For One's force field, and now the battle moves on to stage 2, turning up the heat and the stakes. Since All For One can't move properly without his mask, maybe he's winded or short of breath or something, thank you Tokoyami, Jiro, and Hawks, he really can't outrun Endeavor's firepower. So his only option here is to take Endeavor's firepower. If you know you're going to get burned, you might as well face the fire head on for just a little bit, make contact with Endeavor, and then steal his quirk. And hey, maybe Shigaraki wants a flame quirk after all. Not a bad strategy, right? If you thought All Might was a parallel to Superman, apparently he's not the only one. Endeavor shoots fire out of his eyes to counter the Villain King's plan and hold All For One at bay. All For One is not touching Endeavor anytime soon. But this has me thinking, if Endeavor can shoot laser beams and hot fire out of his eyes, what else can he do? I assume he can breathe fire, and of course he can use his fire to levitate like a jet. But also, what does this mean for Shoto? Does Shoto have the laser eye ability? Can Shoto shoot an ice beam out of his eyes? What are the possibilities? I fear this may be Endeavor's last full power fight as a hero, considering he already lost an arm, and I also want to see what Endeavor can do at max level, so maybe this is it. But let me know in the comments, what else can Endeavor and maybe Shoto do with fire? What type of fire do you want to see? We then see this amazing panel with the grown-up students of Class 1A and Shoto Todoroki walking towards them like he's the last one to join them in this group. To me, this signifies that Endeavor, after this fight with All For One, is passing the torch on to young Shoto. This is a really cool panel by Horikoshi, and it's actually kind of heartwarming to see all the students together again in the future, and of course the future hero costumes are a nice touch. But beyond this, I love the idea that this panel could be showing us it's truly Endeavor's last rodeo. Given all the damage he's taken, losing an arm in this battle, and Shoto's impressive fight in actually saving Toyo Todoroki, I think it's time that Endeavor could pass the torch on to Shoto. I think Endeavor realizes that Shoto is ready to be the #1 hero in the Todoroki household. Endeavor lifts All For One into the sky much like the Haya Nomu and ignites one final ultimate prominence burn to engulf evil and end All For One. But is the battle really over? Endeavor notes that the body is dead because, much like my grilling skills, it's charred beyond recognition. But Hawks knows otherwise and says, "Hey, get away from it right now." The body then suddenly comes alive and opens an eye and a mouth and taunts Endeavor, saying, "What? Wait, you thought I would use my real body here? That's what you heroes do. Sure, you're dangerous with all your pride and your weakness and your resentment, but there's nothing more dangerous than an injured villain. This little show, this was just me testing a plan. Just mapping out a scheme, seeing if something could work. Just an experiment, bro." We then see a panel showing young Eri surrounded by a cascade of quirk erasing bullets. This is unbelievable, Horikoshi. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, that plan by All For One, that experiment he was testing out, is to rewind. Is this the beginning of the video? This way for you guys? Yeah. Rewind his body using Eri's quirk to a previous healed state, even to before when he fought All Might, so that he will never ever again be in a weakened state, and the chances of someone defeating him, even someone like Endeavor, as powerful as he is, are slim to none. I can see why some pro heroes quit now. I get it. It just never ends. Deku gets 7 amazing quirks, All For One gets eternal life. That's fair. All For One using Eri's quirk to heal would explain why he, or at least this body double fighting Endeavor, was able to grow an eye and an ear, since All For One in the present day with his potato face doesn't have these appendages. Also, remember in a recent chapter how there were figures holding All For One back from using his quirks against Endeavor? I initially thought that this was the first user of One For All and said there's no way it's Eri. But perhaps I was wrong. Maybe this is a vestige of Eri that's found in her DNA, and when All For One and Dr. Ujiko used the quirk erasing bullets, extracted the DNA and synthesized a version of her quirk, installed it into All For One or this body double, it came alive and it's trying to stop All For One or his doppelgangers from using it to rewind and heal. Granted, we don't know how All For One and Dr. Ujiko reverse engineered the bullets and extracted the DNA to make a synthetic quirk of Eri's, but we also don't know why the vestiges showed up and tried to stop All For One, so it's pretty safe to say that we need to know more from Horikoshi as we go on in the series. But given this and the ability to create a synthetic quirk, and of course we know All For One and Shigaraki have copies of quirks, because All For One copied his own quirk to give to Shigaraki, or retain and give Shigaraki the original, it's possible that Eri's quirk can now be found not only in All For One, or these doubles, but also Shigaraki and maybe even Haya Nomu. There's also the fact that Shigaraki is almost evolving right now. Shigaraki is currently growing at an exponential rate, even though the heroes are currently canceling his quirk. But what if these hands and growths are truly not a quirk? What if Shigaraki has Eri's quirk, and he's now found a way to fast forward, and what we're seeing is simply the next, albeit ugly, phase in humanity's evolution. Shigaraki would be basically invincible. Also, since Monoma can't copy Eri's quirk to any sort of functionality except for growing a horn, might we see Eri in this final battle, since she's the only one who could rewind All For One or Shigaraki to a single-celled organism? If All For One can make one clone of himself, there's no reason why he can't have an army of them. Also, Horikoshi loves Star Wars, so Attack of the Clones? He could also imbue Haya Nomu with his quirks and appearance to fight his battles for him while he sits back and heals. Perhaps he can control them remotely and communicate to these doppelgangers. And this army of clones would explain these unidentified objects moving in quickly on Deku. As Deku rushes across the ocean to fight Shigaraki, the first user of One For All alerts him and says, "You've got incoming." It's about to be Top Gun in My Hero Academia. But I'd like to know what you guys think. Are these clones of All For One and Shigaraki rushing Deku? And did All For One seriously reverse engineer and mass produce little Eri's quirk? Let me know down below in the comments, because if he did, we need a miracle. If you guys like My Hero Academia content and these chapter reviews, consider enrolling in what's left of UA today by subscribing. And until next time, Plus Ultra.